Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to another insightful program today, which is module 3 of 6. This module is entitled Performance and Potential Assessment. I am your presenter, Andrew Ondari. Welcome. Performance management and appraisal have been and continue to be one of the key functions of a HR manager. This is because that the success of the organization depends on employee performance. We measure performance in terms of two things. One, the output of employees, and two, the behavior of the employees. If I may take us back to what we discussed last week, for those of us who joined us, we talked about talent acquisition and retention. The employees that we have acquired and retained must show that they can produce results and behave in the right way. So we are looking at performance of the employees that we have acquired and retained. For potential assessment, we are looking at the employees who have what it takes not only to perform their current roles, but also to occupy future roles in higher positions. As we shall see, potential assessment focuses on the employees with the right mix of skills, knowledge, experience, and abilities to be promoted to the next level. Performance and potential assessment have become very important for the success of any organization, whether private or public. For a long time, organizations or employers have been focusing on performance only. That what mattered to them previously is what the employees can produce over a period of time, and therefore much less focus on potential. Today, organizations are looking for potential because of two main things. One, organizational sustainability in terms of leadership pipeline. And two, they are looking at potential because of the need for organizations to compete successfully in the market. Therefore, as we look at performance and potential assessment, we are looking at both the current performance of employees and future potential. Having said that, I want us to move to the next slide, which is the areas or the scope of our coverage today. We are going to look at two main components related to performance and potential assessment. Number one is performance measurement. I believe this is not new to any of us because we have been conducting performance appraisals and management for a long time. In performance measurement, we are looking at some of the methods and metrics of evaluating employee performance. And there are two ways of measuring performance. One is quantitative measurements, and two, qualitative. For quantitative measurement, we are looking at statistical measures of employee performance. For example, in a sales department, we are looking at the volume of sales if you are selling goods, or the revenue collected over a period of time, or amount of money spent in looking for new customers, or in some cases, the number of customers that have been acquired over a period of time. For qualitative measurement, we are looking at the behavioral aspects like employee satisfaction or customer satisfaction when we are looking at performance. These are measures that we shall be looking at as we move on through this program today. And then secondly, we will look at potential assessment, which basically assesses or evaluates the skills, the knowledge, the abilities, and the experience of an employee so that they are considered either one, for promotion, or two, transfer, and in some cases, transfer with promotion. We will start with the first one, which is performance measurement. And I'm going to give an overview of what performance management is before I move to the specifics. By definition, performance measurement is a process that evaluates employee results against set standards or targets. We are looking at employee results in two ways. One, the goods and the services they are producing. And then we can quantify this by way of measurement, results. We all produce different results depending on the industry or organization we are working for. For those of us working in the manufacturing sector, you are looking at the number of goods or volume of goods produced by an employee. So those volumes are the results that we are looking at. When talking about talent management, we are not only looking at the employees we have acquired, we are also looking at their performance. How much are they producing and what quality? So we are looking at employee performance management as a process of evaluating or measuring their results. The second aspect that we are looking in results is behaviors. The employees must behave in the right way. And what are these right ways? One, reporting to work on time. Two, obeying rules and regulations. Three, supporting others in the organization. And four, cooperating. So when we look at the behavioral measurements, those are the key aspects that we are looking at, among others. Then secondly, what is the purpose of measuring employee performance? The purpose is to provide clarity on performance standards. What are these performance standards? These are the criteria set by the managers together with the employees, which must be achieved over a period of time. So these standards may relate to two main things. One, the key performance indicators, and two, the timelines, meaning that the employee must achieve those KPIs over a given period of time. Those who meet the standards are said to be good performance. Those who don't are said to be poor performance. And we are going to look at examples of KPIs which form part of these standards, which we will use in measuring the output or the results of employees. The focus of performance measurement is on three key aspects. One, efficiency. Two, effectiveness. And three, outcomes. Efficiency refers to the utilization of resources. What are these resources? One, human resources. Two, financial resources. And three, physical resources. An efficient employee is one who optimizes those three key resources, optimum utilization, meaning that at no time are these resources wasted. So an efficient person does not waste the resource. And part of this measurement is to look at how efficiently an employee has used resources. Effectiveness is about results. Employees must produce desired results. And these results can relate to one, revenue generation, two, profit making, and three, quality of goods and services. So an effective employee is one who produces desired results. And lastly, outcomes are the benefits that we are going to derive from the performance of these employees. For example, improved customer satisfaction or reduced cost of investment. The other aspect related to performance measurement is the role. What role does this play in the bigger picture of the organization? One, it serves as the foundation for rewards. Rewards are incentives that we give our employees over and above what they are paid for working. There are various rewards that we can give people as a result of measuring their performance. One is recognition. Two is promotion. Three is bonus, among others. Then the recognition is appreciating the performance of an employee. Those employees who perform well can be recognized in many ways. One, you can recognize them by giving them a letter of commendation or recognition. Or two, you can give them an award. This award can be physical or monetary. Or we can recognize people through promotion. These are ways in which we can recognize people. And then for career growth, that after measuring performance of employees, we will identify people with potential, and we can prepare careers for them. All of us may be having a career in human resource management. Others may pursue careers in finance or ICT or marketing. So career growth can be aligned with performance measurement. That if people are good at certain areas like HR, we can prepare career plans for them. And therefore, through performance measurement, we can develop career plans for our employees. Performance management also links or connects employee activities with organizational success and competitiveness. When you talk of organizational success, we refer to what the organization can achieve. One, success can be looked at in terms of attainment of corporate objectives. Two, attainment of its vision. And three, attainment of its strategies. So there must be a correlation between employee measurement and the success of the organization in terms of mission, vision, and strategies. Speaking of competitiveness, we are looking at how an organization compares with other players in the market in the same industry. An organization is said to be competitive when it has the best employees, the best products, the best technologies, or even the best systems. The word best is used deliberately because when you are the best, it means that nobody beats you. So in competitiveness, specifically with the talent, we are looking at the best employees. The best employees are those who can perform compared with the other players in the market. And that is why we are looping in performance measurement as a source of competitiveness. So if all the employees of an organization can perform to the expected standards, then the organization can compete because it is able to generate revenue, make profits, especially for private sector organizations, and also innovate. And lastly, what is the outcome of performance measurement? When we make data-driven decision-making, that through performance management, we are able to generate data about the performance of all the employees. Some employees may be average, others may be high performers, and others may be low performers. So based on this data, we are expected to make informed decisions. Decisions related to transfer, promotion, demotion, or even separation. Separation comes in when employees are not performing well consistently. And that becomes a disciplinary issue. So inconsistent or poor performance over a long period of time might lead to a decision of separation. And you can only reach that decision if you have data of the performance of the employees. So that is a basic overview of what performance measurement is about. That it's about employee results. It's about developing standards against which we measure performance. It's about efficiency, effectiveness, and outcomes. And it is the basis for making decisions related to rewards, career, recognition, and even separation. What are the key components of performance management? There are quite a number of components. I've zeroed in on 6. One is goal setting. The beginning of performance measurement is setting clear and measurable goals. Clear and measurable goals. Why do we talk about clear, measurable goals? It is because we want to ensure that our employees understand what is expected of them. Clarity is about making it simple and understandable to all the employees. For those of us in public sector organizations, the year has just started. We are in the first quarter. And it is in this quarter where we as managers sit with our employees to set our targets. Some of these targets relate to the goals that we want to achieve, how and when. The employees should set their targets, and these targets are evaluated by the managers and agreed upon. And both the employee and the employer sign an agreement that this is what is going to be achieved in the next quarter or in the next 1 year, depending on the duration of your appraisal cycle. So clarity is very important when you are setting your performance measurements. Measurable because we are able to identify a metric which we can use to determine the output of employees. This metric can be quantitative or qualitative. In the majority of cases, we focus on the quantitative. For example, the sales made by an employee, or the time taken to perform a particular task. Those are quantitative measures. But as I've indicated, we should not only look at quantitatives, but we can also look at qualitative aspects, like the quality of services. Even when you go to a restaurant, you will want to see the quality of service. And the quality of service may relate to timeliness of that service. The treatment that we get from these cashiers or from the waiters. This may not be measured in quantitative terms, but in behavioral terms. And then these goals must be achievable. We will be talking about best practices in performance measurement. And one of the ways is to set SMART goals. SMART in the sense that they are specific, measurable, attainable or achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Achievable because they can be attained considering the resources available. When we are talking about performance, we sometimes have to invest resources. So we look at attainability of these goals over that period of time, considering resources. And then the indicators. In a system called RBM, RBM stands for results-based management. In this system, we focus more on results and how those results can be achieved. Ideally, there are several key aspects that go to RBM, that is results-based management. One, you look at the objectives. Two, you look at the activities. Three, you look at the output. Four, you look at the outcome. Five, you look at the person responsible. Six, you look at indicators. Seven, you look at MOV. MOV means means of verification. And lastly, you look at the timelines. I have zeroed in on indicators. These are measures that will tell that somebody has performed. And I've indicated three: the output, the quality, and the efficiency. What does the employee produce in terms of output? For example, how much is he producing in terms of checks? Or how many clients has he or she converted into active purchasers? In terms of quality, how happy are customers, or how does the product meet the expectation of the customers? And the efficiency, as I've indicated, is the resource optimization. How well has the employee optimized the resources allocated to him or her? For standards, we are looking at benchmarks, which are acceptable levels of performance. And we are looking at 2 or 3 types of benchmarks. One, the amount of products produced. Two, the time taken to produce that product. And three, the amount of resources that have been used. In many cases, we set the minimum acceptable levels of performance. For example, the minimum time that can be taken to serve a customer. The standard in the banking industry is 7 minutes. So anybody who goes beyond 7 minutes is said to be a poor performer. If a teller, for example, in a bank spends more than 5 minutes, then that person should refer the customer to the next level. That is the minimum acceptable standard. But in other areas, it could be 10 minutes or more. But again, if you are serving many customers, spending a lot of time on one customer may lead to long queues which can lead to customer complaints and eventually loss of business. On feedback, we are saying that performance measurement involves providing responses to the employees on their performance. Feedback can be of two types. One, negative feedback, where employees have performed poorly or below the expected standards. Or positive feedback, where employees have exceeded or have attained the expected standards. But when you talk about constructive responses, we are giving responses that encourage improvement, not to punish. For example, an employee has performed poorly, we don't criticize them negatively, and in the process, we discourage them. What we should be doing is to highlight areas of weakness and what can be done to improve. That is constructive response. And then for documentation, we are saying that performance measurement must be documented. Where do we document performance measurement? We document this in performance evaluation reports, performance evaluation forms, or performance evaluation systems. For some of us who have automated performance management, these measurements are recorded or documented in each of the employees' personal files. Why do we not need to document? One, we document because we may refer to these measurements after some time. Or two, we document because of the need to keep evidence, especially where we put an employee on a PIP. PIP is Performance Improvement Program or Plan. If an employee contests that he or she was not supported, we will always go back to this performance measurements and look at what support that was given to the person, and that is why action is being taken against them. So documentation is very important for two reasons. One, for reference, and two, as evidence. What is the purpose of documentation? Again, for accountability, that we are responsible for the results or outcomes of employees. Documentation also provides consistency, that our systems are predictable. And lastly, compliance with the legal purposes. Compliance in performance management is about keeping records of all employee performance, that in case there is a dispute and an employee goes to court, we always have documents which we can use to defend ourselves. And lastly, another component of performance management is performance review, where we conduct regular assessments so that we continuously improve the performance of employees. Meaning that performance measurement is not a one-off activity. It is a continuous process where we conduct scheduled assessments, either daily, weekly, quarterly, or annually, so that we ensure that we improve the performance of employees continuously. So those are some of the key components of performance measurement. What are the methods that we can use to measure the performance of employees? I have indicated 6. One, we use performance appraisals, which are structured reviews. These reviews assess the output of employees over a given period of time. There are many types of appraisals that we use or methods of appraisal. About 6 or 7. Let me mention 5. One is self-appraisal, which is the most common. Self-appraisal. 2, peer appraisal. 3, downward appraisal, which is the most common. 4, upward appraisal. And 5, 360-degree appraisal. I will be mentioning 360-degree measurement later, but it refers to the use of multiple methods to evaluate the performance of employees. And the multiple methods are the ones that I've mentioned, either a combination of self, peer, and downward, or a combination of self, upward, and peer, or a combination of self, downward, upward, customer, and peer. This will entirely depend on, one, the resources available to do all the appraisals, or 2, the time taken to appraise everybody in the organization. 360 degrees is the preferred method, but most organizations use downward and self-appraisal, where downward is the manager or supervisor appraising the employees, and the employees are praising themselves, and they write a report to relevant authorities for review. Secondly, we use scorecards. This is assessing or monitoring performance using balanced scorecards. I am aware of organizations that use this tool as a way of evaluating employee performance or departments in general. There are 4 parameters in the balanced scorecard. One is the financial aspect, where we are looking at 3 main things, or 4. 1, the revenues generated. 2, the profits made. 3, the cost of doing business. And 4, shareholder value. That is the financial aspect in the balanced scorecard. Second is the customer perspective. In the customer perspective, we could be looking at 3 things. 1, level of customer satisfaction. 2, level of customer involvement. And 3, number of customers acquired. So that is the second parameter in the balance scorecard, that is the customer. The third is internal processes. From a HR perspective, there are various processes that we engage in as we perform our roles. One, recruitment and selection process. Two, training and development process. Four, performance appraisal process. As you can see, performance appraisal is one of the ways in which we can measure employee performance. So we use a process such as performance measurement as part of the balanced scorecard. The last one, the last component in the balanced scorecard is the growth and development, internal growth and development. Here we are looking at employee growth in terms of one, positions, two, skills and knowledge, and three, performance growth. So using this balanced scorecard, we are able to measure the performance of employees. I will repeat the four components in the scorecard. One, finance. Two, customer. Three, process. And four, growth. So this provides us with multiple dimensions through which we can measure employee performance. And then another way of measuring performance is surveys. This is where we design a questionnaire with specific questions assessing the performance of employees. And in this way, we get feedback from peers, clients, and managers on the level of performance of the employees. These surveys are designed in a way that they reflect the key performance areas of an employee, so that when the peers fill this questionnaire, they give us feedback on the quantitative and qualitative results produced by the employees in each of their areas of operation. The same with clients, which I call under appraisal, customer appraisal. We can use clients to assess the performance of employees, especially those at the front office. These are people who interact with customers on a regular basis. And we can assess our employees based on the speed they are served, friendliness, or care for customers. And for managers, we usually use downward appraisal, where supervisors evaluate the performance of employees, either quarterly, biannually, or annually. Another method is self-assessment, where I have said we design tools such as self-evaluation forms to assess employees' achievement. So the employees assess themselves. However, as I will mention later, as one of the challenges of performance measurement is that this method can be biased, that employees assessing themselves may rate themselves highly, especially where these two things happen. One, the use of stick, and two, the use of carrot, where the stick is punishment and the carrot is a reward. We can assess ourselves highly to avoid punishment or to get rewards, and therefore it becomes biased. And for that reason, we are advised that we don't rely entirely on self-assessments. We can combine it with the manager or supervisor assessment or peer assessment. But if this works for you and it is objective, you can always maintain it. Then we talk of KPIs as a method of measuring performance. These are key performance indicators that show the levels of performance of an individual, a group, or a department. Allow me to refer to what I have already mentioned. For example, one of our objectives in an organization is to increase the level of customer satisfaction in the next 1 year, say by 20%. So what will be the indicators of customer satisfaction? One, it could be the number of customers who are happy with our organization or what they receive. Number two, the level of revenues generated over that period of time. Number three is the net promoter index, meaning how many customers are talking positively about our products or about our organization. So those become key performance indicators which are measurable. The last one is comparisons, where we are benchmarking individual or departmental results against other departments or other players in the industry. When you talk of market share, for example, we compare ourselves with others in the market in terms of the number of customers that an organization has. So we can benchmark market share. Market share is usually measured in terms of percentage. And any organization can conduct a survey to find out how do they compare with the other players in the industry. You can compare measurements or methods or even approaches so that we remain competitive. For example, the standards that we use in measuring employee performance, such as time, we look at the industry standards in terms of that time. So if it is a health facility like a hospital, how much time is spent when employees come to the organization? What time is the reporting time? Is it 8, 8:30, or 9? What is the exit time? Is it 4, 5, or 6? In terms of customers, how much time do employees spend with each customer? So the longer the time to deliver a service, the more dissatisfied a customer may become. So it's always good to compare ourselves with others. Why? Because we want to borrow best practices in terms of policies, strategies, processes, systems, and procedures. best practices. And in due course, I'll be talking about best practices in performance measurement, because these are standards that have been proved, that have been researched, and that they are working. So ladies and gentlemen, those are some of the methods used in performance measurement. I will wish to stop there for a while to invite questions from any one of us or comments based on what I have mentioned or said. You look at the first one, that is an overview of performance measurement. 2 is the key components of performance measurement. And 3, methods of performance measurement. So the floor is ours. You are free to make a comment or ask a question. Anybody with a question or a comment to make, please go ahead.
Hi.
Hello to you. How are you?
I'm well. My name is Mariam.
Mariam, how are you?
I'm well. Say you're in HR.
Yes.
And then a supervisor has appraised the employee unfairly. The employee has complained to HR. As a HR person, are you supposed to take the supervisor side or the junior side? Because I've seen in most cases, we're supposed to take the supervisor side.
Thank you, Mariam, for your question. If you have a complaint or you are not satisfied with the evaluation of your performance, in order for you as a HR manager to be balanced and objective, it is always advisable to listen to both sides. The manager can be wrong or the employee can be wrong. For you to be objective, you should be able to look at, one, the targets that were set. Were they objective? Were they measurable? Were they clear? Were timelines set? And then 2, you look at the circumstances. Sometimes circumstances do change and may affect our performance targets. So as HR manager, listen to both sides. And secondly, there is always an appeals committee. These complaints should be presented to the appeals committee. And again, this depends on your organizational arrangements. This performance appeals committee will look at what was measured, how it was measured, and the criteria that was used, and then they can make an objective measure. So the decision of the appeals committee carries the day. Mariam?
Yes, I've heard you. But you know, there are some things that you can't quantify. Let's say someone is in customer service, they answer calls. So what I have been told is it's very important to take the manager's side, to be on the same side. As a head.
Two things. Customer service is fairly hard to measure, but when you conduct customer surveys in terms of their satisfaction, you look at, one, the number of complaints made, and 2, the number of clients served, 3, the queue management system or the speed at which the employee is working. those are some of the parameters that we use in measuring customer service. It is expected that the managers are objective in the assessment of customer service. So when they look at the number of complaints made against the number of clients served, then they can make a determination of whether that person is performing poorly or well. It is always advisable to be objective, whether you are a junior staff, a manager, or a CEO. Your concern, Mariam, seems to reflect bias on the part of managers, where you take a complaint to the HR manager and the HR manager sides with the supervisor. It should not be that biased, but look at what the performance of the employee is from an objective perspective. So the key word here is objectivity. Is the manager always right? They can be wrong in their assessment, especially on matters that are not quantifiable. Can the employee also make mistakes? Yes, they can make mistakes. So it's up to the HR manager or the appeals committee to evaluate the merits of the case and make a determination. Back to you, Mariam.
Okay, yeah, I've understood. You need to be objective.
Yes, the key word is objectivity.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, Mariam. Anybody else with a question or a comment?
Yes, I have. Good morning.
Yes, Charlotte.
My name is Charlotte. I want to ask some examples of how organizations or companies connect performance management with salary increments.
Examples.
Annual salary increments. Yeah, some ideas of how that works.
How an organization connects performance with salary increment.
Salary increment.
Okay. Three things about compensation and the salaries, as it were. One, there's what you call annual salary increment, which can be obvious that all of us expect an increment every year. That increment can be 2%, 3%, or 4%, depending on whether or not your organization can afford it. Secondly, there is a salary increment based on performance. And there are two approaches to performance-related pay. One is performance payment by results, especially those of us who are working on commission, that your payment increases based on the results that you produce. Payment by results, PBR. Secondly, it is performance-related pay. That those of us who are innovative and produce better results or exceed the set standards can have a pay increment. So what is the basis of this pay increment? One, the revenues that you generate as an individual. Two, the profits that you make as an individual. And three, the reduction in terms of cost from your end, so that the reduced cost can be added to your salary. Or the innovation that you bring, which brings more revenue, or the profits. So if in the records, an employee has performed more than the expected standards, and it is consistent, they should get a pay increment based on performance as an incentive. This incentive, as I will mention, could either be financial or non-financial. Financial incentives include bonuses and pay rises, pay increment. So pay increment is based on revenues, profits, and cost reduction. Charlotte?
Yes, I'm getting. All right.
Thank you. The last question or comment, please go ahead. Pauline, if you are there, you can ask a question or make a comment. Rose?
I'm here. This is Pauline. I'm here. Thank you.
Pauline, go ahead.
Just learning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying thank you. I'm just learning. Thank you for the nice presentation. At least I've gotten something about scorecards. I didn't know about scorecards, but I work for an NGO. Yes. So I've never experienced performance measurement using scorecards, but it's something that I would like to experience in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline. James, if you are there. Okay, I want us to move to the next part, and that is application of performance measurement. Where do we apply this? Just like Miriam had asked, where do we apply this in rewards? This performance measurement, we can apply it in rewards. That through performance management, we are able to make decisions related to bonuses, promotions, and salary increments. Speaking of bonuses, this is a lump sum amount of money given to an employee or a group of employees for performing well. For some organizations, these bonuses are given at the end of every year, and they vary from the lowest person to the highest person. Usually the highest ranking employees get the highest amount of bonuses, and it reduces as you go down the organizational structure. An employee can be given a bonus for an innovation, or group of employees given a bonus for their performance. This performance bonus is an incentive where employees look forward to be given that lump sum amount, and they will always celebrate when it comes in December or any occasion when we are celebrating some activities. It will go a long way in meeting some of the expenses that we have as individuals. So we can get two types of bonuses. One, group bonus based on their performance, and two, individual bonus. Then, sorry for that interruption. Then promotions. This is elevating people to higher positions based on their performance. Promotion. And we look at people who have been promoted based on their performance. And performance here, like I have indicated, is the results that we produce. One is the revenues we generate. Two is the profits that we make. Three is the number of goods or services produced, or the levels of customer satisfaction. We should not promote anybody just because there are promotions. We promote people because they are good performers among other potentials. So we promote people because of their performance potential. Because of performance potential. Then salary increments, like somebody has said or asked, is that we increase the salaries of people because they salary increment is what most of us look for, especially a time like this when there is an economic hardship. When we increase salaries, we want to reflect the economic conditions of our environment so that we cushion our employees from hardship. And then another application or area of application is succession planning, that when we are preparing employees to occupy senior positions, we prepare succession plans. And therefore, we identify high performers. These high performers, as I've indicated, are those who produce results in terms of revenues, in terms of customer satisfaction, in terms of profits. And we identify them for future positions. Thirdly is development plans. This has to do with the training and the development, where we identify skill gaps and then create or develop training interventions to bridge performance gaps. In some cases, we may find that an employee is not performing because they are not having the right mix of skills and knowledge, right mix of skills and knowledge. In this way, we are able to identify skills gaps through performance evaluations. In case somebody has a problem or a skill gap in communication, we develop a training in communication. In case somebody has a problem, a skill problem in terms of handling a machine, we take them for training to handle those machines, among other things. And then lastly, we apply performance measurements for retention. We keep employees for a long time. And we can retain these employees in many ways. I've indicated two: one, recognizing them for work well done, and two, rewarding them. We should not reward employees who don't contribute according to their job descriptions. Rewards should be based on contributions or performance. Otherwise, if you reward people who do not perform, then you will discourage others that are performing. There should be fairness and equity in your rewarding of employee performance. Another aspect related to performance reviews or performance measurement are the benefits. How do we as an organization or as employees benefit from performance measurement? There are quite a number of benefits. One is transparency. That if you use clear criteria for measurement, then you are promoting transparency. I want to believe that transparency is one of the core values of our organizations. When you are transparent, you are putting everything on the table, especially during performance evaluations. And this clear criteria for evaluation should be applied to everybody without exception. So with the transparency, employees are likely to be committed to the organization and contribute their best or do their best in terms of delivery. When you use this clear criteria, we are now able to promote people based on merit or performance, recognize people based on performance, and also take disciplinary actions because we are basing our decisions on data. Speaking of disciplinary actions, this is where employees are called to disciplinary meetings because of continuous or consistent poor performance. It becomes a disciplinary because there are several warnings that have been given to the employee if they do not improve their performance. And a disciplinary process can be activated to take action against the poor performance, the perennial poor performance. Usually what happens if an employee does not perform well consecutive cycles, they are put on a PIP. PIPs can range from 3 months to 6 months with an option of extension. If the employee does not improve after the PIP, they are called to disciplinary interviews to explain why they cannot be terminated. And this can only happen if you have clear criteria and you have data that will support your decision. Secondly, we make our employees to be motivated because of performance measurement. How does it work? Because we use the measurement criteria or standards to reward employees, such as recognition. So this performance measurement should be clear and fair. When employees perceive fairness, they are likely to be motivated because people are recognized or paid on performance and not on the basis of who you know or where you come from. 3, productivity. That employees are able to produce results, good results at that, in a short time. That suggests that they are able to optimize resources. There's no wastage of resources. I believe most of us have heard people making this statement. Hii ni mali ya serikali, or hii ni mali ya kampuni, and therefore they can waste those resources. That is not resource optimization. You can only hear these statements if employees are not happy with what they are given or how they are evaluated. So productivity of employees will increase if the measurement criteria is objective and transparent. Development has to do with training, acquisition of new skills and knowledge where there are gaps. And the gaps here relate to performance gaps. So when you evaluate or measure performance, you are likely to identify training needs. A need could be related to an operational issue or a strategic issue or a managerial issue. As I indicated before, you can take training, you can train employees when they are experiencing challenges in performing their work. They are not meeting their targets, which are performance measurements. They are producing waste, which is an element of performance measurement, or they are experiencing difficulties. Those become areas that require attention, and the training intervention can be introduced. For managers, we want to develop them on a continuous basis, and again, for purposes of developing or creating a leadership pipeline. So management development has to do with enhancing managerial skills so that one, they are able to perform well at their current position, and two, preparing them for future positions. So through performance measurement, we are able to identify training and development needs of our employees. Another benefit is alignment, that through performance measurement, we are able to connect performance to purpose. All of us want to live a purposeful life. That if your work does not provide purpose or does not produce meaning, then it becomes demotivating. So when we measure the performance of an employee, we try to align them with their career objectives and also their levels of motivation. So in alignment, we are linking work to purpose. Does the work relate to purpose? Why are employees working? There are some employees who are working for money, and others are working for self-fulfillment. Purposeful work is one that not only helps an employee to earn a salary, but also live a purposeful life. And then the second last is fairness, that through objective performance measurement, we are able to promote fairness. That is avoiding bias or favoritism. These biases arise from lack of a clear and objective standard of evaluation. That we are all subjective in the way we look at things. But when we have clear standards that are understood by everybody, then we avoid bias and favoritism. Bias or favoritism can be based on, one, our relationship with the employees, two, our political backgrounds, three, our tribal affiliations, or four, our professional background. So to avoid biased decision-making and favoritism, we promote adoption of clear evaluation criteria, which must be applied to everybody, application to everybody. And lastly, another benefit is improvement. Why we conduct performance measurements is to identify performance gaps, and we improve them, not only for now, but even for the future. Why? Because our environment is dynamic. there are many changes in our environment, and there will be performance gaps because of these changes or skill gaps. So to ensure continuous improvement or refinement, we should conduct regular performance measurements so that where there are weaknesses, we improve or refine them. Where there are strengths, we maintain. Just like employee retention, we maintain the standards so that we can become competitive. So those are some of the benefits of performance measurements. And now I want to move to the challenges. That we all face in performance measurements. Even at the individual level, we face some of these challenges. One is bias, where our managers, like one of us had mentioned, use personal judgments to assess performance. Using personal judgment is subjective. Why? Because we all have different experiences, different skills, different exposures, and come from different backgrounds. When we use personal judgments, then we fail to be objective. And that is likely to lead to subjective judgments or decisions. And this may discourage employee performance and distort the results that are produced by employees. To overcome this challenge, I will propose, and I'm sure you have been using this, let us develop clear standards of measurement and apply them consistently across departments or functions. Secondly is resistance. Not everybody accepts the results of their performance. Some may contest. Why? Because they feel that the managers were not objective, or that the standards used were not clear. Or in some cases, they may resist because of fear or anxiety. We all fear many things. For example, fear of pain, 2, fear of the unknown, and 3, fear of the future. In performance evaluations, we have many fears. Fear that we may be demoted. Fear that we may stagnate. Fear that we may be dismissed. And this fear arises out of the performance measurements, especially if they are not favorable. And others resist evaluations. I've interacted with people from different organizations, and I hear from some of them that employees don't want to be evaluated based on behavior. They want to be evaluated based on their targets and not behavior. The moment you start evaluating behavior, they start resisting. So resistance is common, and we must expect resistance. And therefore, for us to avoid resistance or manage resistance, we should do 3 things. 1, involve the employees in the evaluation process from the beginning. Involvement. 2, we must communicate the targets and timelines in time. And 3, use objective criteria for evaluation. The other challenge is consistency. In some organizations, there's lack of consistent standards that we can use to evaluate our employees. Especially when you do not have adequate SOPs. SOPs are standard operating procedures. That these are guidelines that help us to perform a task from beginning to end. In performance measurement, we may not have a standard operating procedure where managers follow a standard process for assessing performance. And this might lead to biasness, unfairness, or unreliable measurements. For us to address the problem or challenge of inconsistency, we should be applying those standard criteria consistently using standard operating procedures. Fidelity to standard operating procedures will promote fairness and reliability. In some cases, inconsistency may come because of changes in the environment, some of which are beyond the organization. For example, during the period of COVID, many organizations were thrown off balance because they could not assess the behavior of their employees or even their output because employees had to stay at home. That caused inconsistency in terms of frequency of measurements. I have indicated that frequency creates consistency. So if we are not consistent in the frequency, then we produce unreliable measurement. Therefore, as HR managers, we should always ensure fidelity to the standards that we use and to the policies that we have to guide us. So if the measurements are done daily, they should be done daily. If it is weekly, they should be weekly, monthly, or quarterly. There should be no excuse that somebody is busy, that they cannot evaluate or measure themselves. And then another challenge is resources. Time, money, and personnel have always been a challenge. Performance measurements, especially in a large organization, requires time, which means as HR managers, we must assemble a team to conduct the evaluations. Otherwise, if we don't have a team and we do it alone, it might take a long time, meaning that we may have to forget or forego certain roles in order to conduct performance measurements. And that is why in some cases, organizations outsource this activity to external consultants. Another limitation in terms of resources is skilled managers. That we need people who are knowledgeable, experienced, and skilled in performance measurements. Not everybody can do this. For organizations that do not have skilled managers, then they may have to train them on how to conduct these evaluations effectively. Therefore, what do we need to do in terms of these resource constraints? Mainly, it's about planning. We prepare a plan in terms of money, in terms of time, in terms of people's responsibilities, and also in terms of scope, what is going to be covered in these evaluations. So you can draw a template where you have a timeline to do the performance, the persons responsible, the resources required, and the timelines. Then another challenge, which we have mentioned in bullet 1, is subjectivity, where we are relying on people's opinions in areas that are not measurable, like customer satisfaction. It may not be possible to measure quantitatively the level of customer satisfaction. So in that case, we might use a Likert scale saying highly satisfied or very dissatisfied. So highly dissatisfied, how do you quantify that? Some people use measures like highly satisfied, like 5, and very dissatisfied, like 1. But again, there's
Hello?
Madam, you are muted.
sorry for that. Allow me to repeat what I said. Communication has 3 key characteristics. 1, timely. 2, relevant. And 3, accurate. If communication is not delivered effectively, then we experience problems. And even in feedback, feedback should be timely, should be accurate, and should be relevant. If it does not have those 3 characteristics, then it affects our morale and our level of engagement in the organization. So those are some of the challenges that we face when we are conducting performance evaluations or measurements. What are the best practices in performance measurement? As I promised, I will be talking about SMART goals. Goals are must be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. As managers, we should ensure that objectives or goals are specific. Specific in the sense that they refer to a particular subject or element. For example, you want to measure revenue. You cannot say that we want to increase revenue in the next 1 year without being specific. By how much do you want to increase the revenue? There must be a specific figure. So you can say we want to increase revenue by 20%. So the 20% becomes specific. Specifically to employee performance, we want to reduce the time of response to customer queries. You cannot just say reduce time for customer queries. You must be specific. You can say reduce response time by 90 or 100%, so that you take as short a period of time as possible. Specific. So specific here means the timelines or the revenues. Don't be too broad. If it's broad, then it becomes unattainable. Measurable, we put a number to it, either frequency or a percentage or a ratio. For example, the number of customers served or the number of complaints presented. Those numbers ensure that we are able to measure. Then attainable, that the resources can afford us to achieve them. There are 3 resources I may have mentioned before. 1, human resources. 2, physical resources. 3, financial resources. Are these resources available? If they are not, then that objective is not attainable. Realistic, can the objective be achieved given the current condition or situation? For example, today, many of us are struggling to make ends meet, even at a personal level. Expecting to increase, for example, profits by 50% can be a tall order, because objectively, many of us are struggling. So you don't even expect customers to have the money to buy your products so that you can increase your profits by 50%. That is being ambitious, and therefore that objective is not realistic. So realistic has to do with the current situation or current conditions. Can these conditions help to achieve those goals? Then the other aspect is time bound. There must be a specific time period where we can begin and end this process. We must be, again, realistic in terms of our time, that we don't have all the time to focus on one objective. So we must limit the timelines within which we must achieve those objectives. We must emphasize here that as managers, we should give adequate timelines for these activities or for the goals to be achieved. You don't expect somebody to increase their performance, say within 1 week, and yet those results require more time. So we should sit together with our employees in a model called MBO, Management by Objectives, where we set goals together with our employees and set timelines that are attainable or achievable. Secondly, as a best practice, we have regular reviews. I've mentioned two, either quarterly or monthly. For some other organizations, measurement is a daily activity. How can you make it a daily activity? You can use dashboards. A dashboard is an online tool where employee performance can be measured on a daily basis or hour by hour. We post the performance of our colleagues or of ourselves on these dashboards because they are real time. So that anybody anywhere in our system who has access to the dashboard can see the performance of employees on a daily basis. Why daily basis? Because waiting for a week or a month can be a long time, and taking corrective measures can be a challenge. And that is why some organizations have dashboards which they use to evaluate employees on a daily basis. But if that becomes cumbersome, you can do it weekly, or you can do it monthly, quarterly, biannually, or annually. I want to believe that most of our evaluations are done quarterly, because if you do it over a long period of time, people might forget, especially the behavioral aspects. And we run the risk of having the error, which we call the recency error. We only evaluate people based on what we can remember they did in recent times, recency error. The other best practice is open communication, where we allow employees to contact us at any time during a working day. And I emphasize during a working day, but if you can have a policy where you can be contacted at any time, especially for those who are performing core functions, it's as and when need arises. So open communications create trust and ensure that there are open discussions between the managers and employees. These open conversations, one, motivate people because they think that their opinions matter or are valued. Two, they create a community of practice where the manager and the employees work together to achieve common objectives or share their knowledge and insights. We should not wait for a long time to communicate, but communication should be a regular thing that we do. Then employee involvement. This is where we engage our employees in goal setting and evaluations. Traditionally, managers used to set goals and timelines and cascade them to lower level employees. But that has changed because of the need to motivate employees and also to encourage ownership of this process so that we reduce resistance. So employee engagement means that we involve them from the very beginning and that they own this process. Otherwise, some people may raise queries about their evaluations because they were not involved. Then continuous learning. Every day should be an opportunity for us to learn. During performance appraisals, we learn from our mistakes. Also learn from the successes of others. If we benchmark ourselves, we learn from the success of others. Or if we are doing it individually, we learn from our mistakes. They say that experience is the best teacher, and we learn from our experience. So performance measurement becomes part of this experience. Where did we go wrong? And which areas need strengthening? So we need to continuously learn from the experience of measurement. More so, when we identify skill gaps, we are able to upskill our employees on a continuous basis. And this can only happen if performance measurement is regular. But if it is intermittent or random, then it becomes difficult to identify skill gaps on a regular basis. Remember, we need to be competitive. The moment we don't upskill our employees, then they stagnate. They stagnate in terms of performance and stagnate in terms of individual growth. Lastly, as a best practice, we need to integrate technology into this process. And how do we integrate this? We use technology such as AI or automation to collect data and report our findings. Even in terms of storage, we can use digital tools to store this data. For example, document management system is a technology that we can use to collect, store, share, and utilize the knowledge obtained from performance measurement. So as a best practice, do not rely on the traditional methods, that is a manual data collection and reporting. We should automate this. By automation, we mean that we eliminate human involvement, and this helps us to cut on time, cost, and even enhance accuracy. Before I ask another question, what is the future of performance measurement? Before we go to the second part of our presentation today. The future of performance focuses on these 6 key aspects. They may not be the only one, there are others. One is integration. Like I've just mentioned, we are going to integrate technology into this process. And 2, ensure alignment with corporate strategy. Alignment in the sense that we are able to connect individual and departmental performance to the attainment of 3 things. 1, the mission. 2, the vision. And 3, strategy. For example, if our strategy for the next 3 or 4 years is to expand into the East African region, we may want to open an office in Rwanda or elsewhere. How do we then align performance measurement with that strategy of new market development? We should ensure that 1, we capture the current market so that gives us strength to move into other countries. And we can do measurements on the number of customers that we have currently, so that as we move into the next phase of foreign investment, we already have enough resources. So we measure performance of the current employees and see who among them can be taken to the 3rd country or 2nd country to work there. We don't want to send anybody into a new market who does not perform. We look for people with potential, and the potential also includes performance. So integration has to do with 2 things: align with corporate strategy, and 2, adoption of technology to collect, measure, and store data related to performance. Secondly, we need to adopt technology, that our performance measurements should be data-driven, and one of the tools that we can use to evaluate employees is AI. When we have, for example, Google Forms with AI, we are able to get in real time the performance of employees. The moment employees click on the options or the levels of their performance, that information is quickly transmitted into their managers' portals or dashboards. And therefore, there is no waiting time when it comes to evaluation using AI. Technology also enables us to evaluate people fairly because technology is objective. It can only work on data that it has. So if we use technology to collect data, analyze it, or evaluate it, then we are likely to obtain fairness. And I want to believe that we are using technology in performance measurements. However, there are some organizations that still use manual processes or documents to evaluate performance. Employees are required to attach documents which can be very voluminous and very tedious for evaluators. So to be on the safe side, please adopt technology, and this will save you on time, will save you on biasness, and will save you on accuracy. And again, going forward, we are looking at personalization, that we focus on individual strengths and weaknesses. Unlike before, where we are looking at employees as from the best to the worst. So in a ranking method, you look at employees' performance and say, so and so was the best in that department, and the last was so and so. This traditional way of evaluation discouraged people or even created fear that they might be ranked first and might be embarrassed. But today we focus on individuals. What is the strength and the weakness of each individual? We are all different. So that where there are weaknesses, we put in place interventions to strengthen them. And where there are strengths, we maintain them. And even when it comes to decisions that we use, rather we make from performance measurement, such as career or training, we identify skill gaps and then personalize that. Employees go for training because they have certain specific skill gaps that they need to sharpen. So performance measurement going forward is likely to be more personalized than ever before. And the other future that we are looking at is linking learning to individual development. That performance is linked to individual development, how we identify performance gaps, and where these gaps are caused by lack of skills and knowledge, we develop training programs. So we link performance to training. And through training, people learn new skills. And there are three things that are associated with the learning. One, you reskill. Two, upskill. And three, you relearn. You learn and relearn. In this way, we are able to continuously upgrade or learn because we have the basis for learning, and that is performance measurement. And then on adaptability, our work environment is evolving. That means it is changing. And therefore, we must change the way we measure performance. apart from adopting technology, we should also be able to measure performance on a regular basis, not necessarily quarterly. Because in the space where we are moving into, it is technology enabled, and therefore there's no need for organizations to wait for a long time. We need to adapt. If the market is moving towards daily measurements, we will move toward that. And then lastly is about sustainability. It's about ensuring that whatever we are measuring is aligned with the long-term organizational objectives, mission and vision. That we are not doing this for now, we are also doing it for the future. And therefore the need to ensure that these performance measurements are conducted on a regular basis and based on the trends, we are able to project or forecast into the future and see where the organization will be, especially in an environment which is competitive like ours. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to invite questions or comments based on what we have covered here. And if you may, we talked about challenges. Let me go back. Benefits, 2 challenges, and 3 best practices, as well as future of performance evaluation. So the floor is ours. If you have a question on the challenges, best practices, and the future. Amina, if you have a question or comment, you can go ahead. Alice?
Good morning.
Good morning, Amina.
I have no question, only that I wanted to clarify on the issue of the dashboard. Is it very effective to use the dashboard for the entire organization?
Thank you, Amina. This will entirely depend on your policy, especially on performance management. If the policy provides for the use of a dashboard, then it should be organization-wide. But for some organizations, we create dashboards within our departments. For example, within the human resource information system, we can create a dashboard where employees are evaluating each other on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. And as a manager, you are able to see or measure the performance of the employee within a week. And as a best practice, dashboard is a form of technology where people can post their evaluations either individually or in a group. This will save us time instead of going to quarterly or biannually evaluations, and also ensure that there is consistency. If you can use a dashboard throughout the organization, the better for you. But again, as I said, this will entirely depend on your policy. So what does your policy say about the adoption of dashboards? Amina?
We don't have a policy on adoption of dashboard. It's just the way I've learned today, and just I got interested on whether it is viable to use it in our organization. If it is viable, yes, we can do a policy to start using it. So I was just seeing how viable it is. And then another question, if you don't mind, is it good practice or to train employees on the performance management? Because many of employees may not understand what performance management means. They're just given appraisals to fill through their supervisors, their HOD. Is it not good practice to train employees first on the whole of this issue of performance management? Thank you.
Thank you, Amina. Going back to your first comment, especially on the viability, yes, it is viable. What you need to do is to develop a policy around it and then liaise with your ICT department so that they can create this dashboard for you. If they cannot do it internally, you can get an external consultant to create the dashboard. By and large, the dashboard is the way to go because it gives you real-time feedback on what is going on. To your second question on the training of employees on performance evaluations, yes, it is good practice. Good practice because one, employees are able to understand the process. Two, employees are able to understand what is expected of them. Three, employees are able to know how to conduct this. When you train people prior to these performance evaluations, you are likely to get better results than when employees are struggling on their own. Even as a manager, it becomes difficult for you because there will be many questions and back and forth activities, and this will waste a lot of your time. It is advisable and it's a best practice that employees be trained on one, setting goals, two, using the tools, and three, reporting. Very important to train. Train them on the tool, how to use the tool, train them on how to set SMART objectives, and three, train them on reporting. And if there are other resources that are required, they should always know where to get them after the training. So Amina, yes, training is a best practice, but if for some reason you don't train, then that will waste a lot of your time and employees will always say, we didn't know. And that will not be their mistake, it's the mistake of the manager. Amina?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Let us move to, unless there's a question, Alice, if you are there.
I have a question. Sorry, it's in relation to what Amina is talking about. And
Yes.
just please come back and just talk a bit about what's in it for the employees, because I think it's the attitude, the view, or the perception that performance management is for the organization. I think this is one of the reasons why it becomes difficult to sell, and bring people on board. So I don't know if you could just mention a few things. What's in it for the employees so that they can also see it as an advantage or a good thing for them.
Thank you. Yes, when we are conducting performance evaluations and measurement, we should think from both sides. One, the benefits to the organization, and two, the benefits to the employee. You have mentioned something very critical about the attitudes and the mindset of employees. It is always advisable that you engage these employees from the beginning by way of having a conversation so that they buy into this process, so that they know where they come in, two, what is expected of them, and three, what are they likely to benefit from this process. Yes, it is good, again, to debrief the employees even after this process so that they can learn lessons and also chart the way forward for better improvement. It is incumbent upon us managers to ensure that the employees look at the bigger picture. For example, I mentioned that we make decisions related to these performance results, such as promotion, training, or even pay rises. This should come out clearly during these meetings so that employees know what they are likely to benefit from this process. Don't be biased, but look at both the benefits to the organization and the benefits to the employees. James, I saw your hand up.
Yes, yeah. So my question is, no, thanks for that. That I think that was quite intense. However, I need to ask, we have scenarios where you have an employee who has not performed and these people are put through PIP.
Yes.
But unfortunately is that you find that they have the wrong attitude from the beginning about the manager, and they actually feel like it's more vindictive and targeted. How do you deal with that from an HR perspective? And I'm talking about a case scenario where we had a case, all processes were followed, but this person actually sued the company. How do you ensure that it doesn't feel targeted? And I am talking in sense that you even have smart objectives set. But every time you are sitting down to explain on the progress, this staff does not listen and actually uses words that says, I feel that my manager does not like me, that the company just wants to fire me. Yeah, those kind of words. How do you deal with that from an HR perspective? Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Yes, we experience or we encounter such cases very often in many organizations. But as HR managers, we must provide leadership in terms of 1, communication, 2, employee engagement, and 3, alignment with the corporate objectives. You have mentioned that some employees feel like they are being targeted by their managers and that they kind of don't like them. As HR managers, several things. 1, these appraisals or measurements are not an individual thing. It's a team effort. Where a manager has rated a person poorly, leading to PIP, it must have gone through a process. For example, as I mentioned earlier, there is a performance committee where employees can fall back to for purposes of complaining in cases of bias. And this is an appeals committee. So if a person has performed poorly, first time, second time, instead of relying on an individual supervisor or manager, this case can be referred to an appeals team, appeals committee. Secondly, we should look at the merits of the employee's complaints. What is it that she or he is complaining about? Are the complaints genuine? Is the supervisor vindictive? We should find out what is going on between the two before we make a determination of even putting somebody on a PIP. As I mentioned earlier, managers are not angels. They also make mistakes. They also have their personal weaknesses or biases. And probably they are using these personal biases to evaluate this employee, and that is where he or she feels that they are not being evaluated objectively. You also mentioned that the managers appear like they do not listen to the employee. Is there a system within the organization that an employee can complain to, like an ombudsman, so that the grievances or the complaints of the employee can be heard? And then we need to have a conversation around setting of our objectives. Are they smart? Yes, you've said that they were smart. Then what's the real issue? Is it the weakness of the employee? And if it's the weakness of the employee and there's no merit in their complaint, then we may do two things. One, performance coaching, so that we focus on those weak areas and partner this employee with somebody who is a better performer. And that can also involve mentorship. Number two, we can do performance counseling. That if the employee is not clear on the specific measurable objectives and the results they get, then we might counsel them in terms of their performance counseling. So three things. One, the appeals committee to review the case. Two, partnering this employee with mentors and coaches, or what you call the buddy system. And three, counseling if the employee has a personal weakness which needs to be addressed. Any other question?
Thank you.
Asante san. Is it James who raised the hand again? Okay. If there is no, yes, James, your hand is up?
No, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Then we move to the next part, that is assessing potential. In talent management, we have already looked at one, attracting employees. Two, retaining employees. Three, performance evaluations or measurements. And now we are looking at their potential. What is the potential of our talent? Potential has to do with the capability of doing better or even growing within the organization. So potential assessment is the process of assessing or evaluating employees to determine their ability and their capacity to grow. Talking of future ability, we are looking at what they can do right now and what they are likely to do in the future. We have just mentioned their performance. So those employees who would be targeted for potential growth are those who are doing well now. And if we encourage such high performance, we are likely to have high potential employees who are performing in the future. So ability is about capability of doing things, both now and in the future. And two, growth. they can grow in terms of skills and knowledge, and two, they can grow in terms of positions. Another aspect related to our potential assessment is an evaluation of their readiness for leadership, their innovation capacity, and their skill gaps. Talking of leadership readiness, these are people who have shown signs of being good leaders. And who are good leaders? These are people with the following characteristics. I can mention three. One, they take initiative, meaning that they don't wait to be told what to do. Two, they are proactive, that they see the future and take actions now. Even before you ask them for a report, they already have the report. Proactive. And then number three, these are people who inspire others. We inspire others in many ways. One, in the way we relate with others. Two, in the way we motivate them. And three, in the way we treat them. So those are leadership traits that can make a person to be ready now. So leadership readiness is an area that is covered under potential assessment. Secondly is innovation capacity. We always reward people who are innovative. Innovative in the sense that they are able to develop or create new or better systems, products, processes, or even practices. We reward innovation in many ways. One, by giving them recognition, recognizing their innovation. Two, we can promote them. And this promotion is where we are talking about potential. People with innovation capacities stand a chance to be promoted. Unlike those who are not innovative at all, they are waiting for instructions, or they can never do anything differently. And then skills. People with the right mix of skills, either through their own training or through their own experience. So we are looking at these areas to assess potential: leadership readiness, innovation, and skill abilities or gaps. Thirdly, what is the purpose of assessment? One, we are able to identify emerging leaders that we can use for succession planning and organizational sustainability. Emerging leaders. There are those current leaders who are occupying senior positions. At lower levels, this is where we have emerging leaders. These emerging leaders could be new employees or employees within the ranks who have started showing signs of leadership. So by assessing our employees, we are able to identify emerging leaders, and we use them for succession planning. Succession planning here is about preparing those emerging leaders to occupy senior positions. And how do we prepare them? One is by training. Two, by delegation. Three, temporary promotions. And four, assigning them stretch assignments or giving them stretch assignments. In this way, we shall make them ready to occupy senior positions. That if senior managers leave the organization by any methods, either through resignation or termination or God forbid death, we have adequately prepared leaders to occupy those positions. Then the focus of potential assessment is not just for the present, but also going into the future by looking at that untapped capacity. Emerging leaders are the ones that we use to tap their capacity. So that untapped capacity can be utilized for innovation, can be utilized for productivity. So that as we move forward as an organization, we are utilizing our employees to the full potential. But again, we should be careful not to overutilize employees, because the moment this happens, there might be three consequences. One, burnout. Two, stress. And three, disengagement. So as we tap into their capacity, we should not overtap this because of the risk of disengagement and the risk of dissatisfaction. What is the approach that we use in potential assessment? Three things. Behavioral assessment. I mentioned earlier that we should not only focus on the results, tangible results only, we could also look at the behaviors. That for leaders, they must demonstrate certain leadership behaviors. For example, being compassionate, being focused, being visionary. Those are behavioral aspects that we can assess to identify potential. Psychometric tests, these are measures of a person's statistical abilities, as well as emotional and attitudes. And we use these tests especially during recruitment and selection, particularly during interviews. And then we can have structured evaluations where we invite those potential employees for promotion meetings on a regular basis, depending on our need and our growth, so that we assess their potential for leadership. We can also use performance evaluations as structured evaluations so that we identify those people who have this potential for future growth. And lastly, what's the outcome? What benefit do we get from this? Is that we build a leadership pipeline. And I remember we mentioned, those of us who are with us, last week we talked about talent acquisition and retention. In retention, we create a pipeline of leaders. These are people who have been adequately prepared to take over positions of responsibility. And in this way, we are able to achieve three things. One, organizational mission and vision. Two, organizational strategy. And three, market competitiveness. That when we have this pipeline, we will not have gaps anywhere. Gaps in terms of performance, and two, gaps in terms of manpower. So we have people who are ready to occupy those senior positions. So that is an overview of assessing performance potential. What are the key components of potential assessment? That when we look at an individual employee, what are we looking for? So that we can identify potential. So these are the things that show potential. One, agility, their ability to adapt quickly to the environment. And some of us during interviews, we are asked, what are your strengths? And you always answer that you are able to learn quickly. It also implies that you are agile, you are able to adapt those changes in your environment, and you are able to apply your knowledge in different areas. Not only in HR, you can apply it in strategic management, you can apply it in ICT and other areas. Then adaptability, ability to change in our environment. And this is very important, especially for succession planning or potential assessment. We want people who can adapt quickly to our environment. We have had managers saying that, or even employees saying that we have done this for a long time and it has worked for us. On the understanding that our environment is volatile, meaning that it is in a continuous state of change, we should be careful to identify people who are able to adapt. And we can do that, one, during interviews for new jobs, and two, during performance evaluations, and three, during promotions interviews. So we can get to know whether these people are adaptable or not. Then leadership traits like vision, decision-making, and team building or inspiration. We want people who are visionary, who are looking forward. Are they able to set objectives that provide direction? Are they able to see themselves somewhere in the next 5 years? And when we interview people, we sometimes ask this question: where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Somebody with a vision will always say, I see myself occupying a leadership position in this organization where I can apply my gained skills and knowledge to change the organization for the better or achieve strategic objectives. It's a visionary person. Then decision making. We want to see people who are decisive. One mistake that managers make is to rely on many advisors. And in the end, they have so many options to make, and therefore they cannot make that decision. So leaders with potential are decisive, they make decisions, and be accountable for the decisions they make. And another leadership trait is teamwork, that a leader is one who works with others in the organization. They should not be in their ivory towers and come down when things have gone wrong. Be part of the team. If it is a CSR exercise, be there. If it is football or a wellness program, be there. Be part of the team so that you work together, achieve results together, and celebrate together. Another component or another aspect that we need to look for is the resilience, ability to overcome challenges. Our environment is full of challenges, sometimes financial challenges. How resilient are these employees? There are others who give up because they cannot face those challenges. People who give up cannot persist under pressure. So we want managers who take challenges. I believe some of us apply for positions because those positions present challenges. So if you are this type of a person, then you are resilient and you are likely to be considered for future promotion. Then strategic thinking, ability to think long term, ability to think innovation, ability to think customer satisfaction. And long-term thinking people do not focus on 3 time horizons: 1 short-term, medium term, and 3 long-term. That as strategic thinkers, we are looking for opportunities that will change, 1, our own performance and positions, and 2, organizational growth and success. Organizational growth and success is long-term, and therefore we need to look at what we can do today to achieve long-term success. So strategic thinkers are people we are looking for. When you call them for meetings, you can see strategy, how they are thinking into the future and what can be done to achieve that good future. Lastly is innovation. We want people who are innovative so that we can, 1, we develop new products, 2, we develop new solutions to new problems, and 3, we develop new systems and processes that can work for us. So those are the few components of potential assessment. We look for these key aspects so that we identify people for future position. What are the methods that we can use to identify potential? I'm sure many of us have come across the 9-box grid, where we are developing or mapping the current performance against future potential. And each of these has measurements, either high, moderate, or low, for both of them. If its performance is high, moderate, or low. If its future potential, it is high, average, or moderate, or low. Those people who are high performers and have high potential are the ones that we focus on today. They are our stars. We want to focus on them so that we prepare them for promotion. These are people with very high potential, meaning that they are good performers today, and going into the future, they have all the traits that we have mentioned. If I may go back to them, they have learning agility, they are adaptable, they show leadership traits, and they are innovative. So using the 9 grid, you map performance against future potential. Secondly, we can use assessments where we are using psychometric tests, simulations, and aptitude tests. Let me talk about simulations. We sometimes ask people to tell us of a situation which they found challenging and how they went about it. If a candidate is able to answer that question to our satisfaction, then they have potential. We are asking them to simulate to us a situation which they encountered and how they managed it. Or in some cases, we can use case studies, either during recruitment of new employees or during promotions. We give them case studies, either real or hypothetical, so that we see their ability to solve problems or identify problems and solve them. Simulations. And again, simulations can also be integrated with technology, where you use virtual realities to simulate situations, especially for employees who are being onboarded or employees who are being promoted. Feedback is another method where we get to know who are these people with potential. We have mentioned this through performance appraisals, and this is self-appraisal, peer appraisal, manager appraisal, and 360-degree appraisal. So this feedback from supervisors, peers, or mentors will help us to make a decision on who are these people who have very high potential. Talent reviews. Others can identify talent during performance evaluations, or others can identify the talent during meetings. So we can do talent reviews at any time during the employees' time in the organization, so that we can identify those who are ready for senior or greater responsibilities. Career interviews, this is what we do, especially when we are doing career planning. We identify people who should be occupying certain positions even as they prepare for their professional growth. So we should have a conversation around their careers so that we see what employees want to achieve and how we can prepare them to achieve their career objectives. This career objective should be aligned with the organization's succession plan. And that is where careers come in. What are the benefits of potential assessment? And we are looking at this both on the employee side and the employer side. One is succession planning, that we prepare employees for leadership positions. That when we look for people with potential, we prepare succession plans. We identify people who can succeed others. Secondly is retention, that through identifying potential, we are likely to engage in three things. One, training, because they have potential. Two, rewarding. And three, career development. Those are retention strategies that we can put in place, especially for people with potential, so that we can retain them. The other benefit is that we make employees committed. Commitment refers to the emotional feelings that people have towards the organization, the perception they have about their work, their managers, and their organization in general. James asked about employees who complain that the managers are looking for excuses to dismiss them. Probably they do not have the right feelings for the organization, and probably communication, counseling, and other discussions can help. So we need to create a committed workforce. And a committed workforce is a highly performing workforce, HPW, high performing workforce. So we can only ensure high performing workforce by way of identifying potential and enhancing that potential. The other benefit is that through this potential assessment, we are able to identify training needs, that is performance gaps, which can be bridged through training interventions. And again, this will depend on the area of weakness that somebody has that has to be improved. I've talked about innovation, where we want to reward innovation, and therefore those potential candidates who are innovative can help the organization to achieve its objectives. And lastly, sustainability, that through identification or assessment of potential, we strengthen our employee adaptability. How do we strengthen this? One, by way of training. Two, providing them with resources. Three, by partnering them with mentors and coaches so that we take care of the future of our business. So those are some of the benefits we derive from potential assessment. Again, I want us to go back to where we started, the concept of potential assessment. If anybody has a question, you can ask. Secondly, we moved to components of potential assessment. These are the things we look for to identify potential. And 3, the methods of assessment. Lastly, the benefits. Anybody with a question, with a comment, please go ahead, and then we can finish with the remaining part. In no particular order, Judith, Kawiria, please, if you have a question or a comment to make, please go ahead. Okay. HR admin, if you are there, is somebody by the name HR admin? Okay. Apparently, there is no question. I presume that we are progressing well, and therefore I move to the next part so that we close. Where do we apply this potential assessment? One, it is in leadership development. We identify people with high potential so that we can develop their skills and knowledge in leadership. And we said earlier on that we not only look for people who have potential today or their performance today, but also into the future. So we want to develop a crop of leaders who are able to provide leadership in our organization to others. 2, we applied this potential assessment in succession planning, mainly to identify those suitable replacements. Suitable replacements are those people with potential and nothing else. If I may repeat what potential is, these are people with the right mix of skills, knowledge, experiences, innovation, and strategic thinking. Secondly, in talent mobility, people move in and out of the organization. When they move in the organization, they move in 2 ways. 1, through promotion, and 2, through transfers. So we identify people with potential for promotion and for transfer. These days, when we want to transfer a person, there are several considerations we make. 1, ability to cope with the environment where they are being moved to. 2, their family background. And 3, their experience in those areas. Why experience? So that we send somebody who can understand the culture of the people around whom he or she is going to work. For example, you want to transfer a person to Kisii and you are in an NGO sector. You are looking matters to do with HIV/AIDS. You will look for somebody who has worked in Kisii or who understands the culture of Kisii. So that as you consider that transfer, you are considering the qualification, ability to understand the local language. So in talent mobility, we are talking about internal movement. How about external movement? These are people who are moving outside the organization. And when people move outside the organization, either they are resigning or they are being dismissed. But that will be taken care of by succession planning. And then another application is retention. We apply potential assessment for purposes of retaining our employees. Those people with high potential are the ones to be retained. And how do we retain them? I've mentioned some of the retention strategies. One, promotion. So we consider potential for promotion. Two, reward. We consider employees with the potential to be rewarded. And three, upskilling. We look for employees with the potential who need upskilling. So for retention strategy, we need to identify people with potential. And then strategic alignment, where we match people with potential with the long-term objectives. And that will help us to create a pipeline of talented employees so that we do not run dry, especially when we are growing. And then lastly is mitigate risks, especially when employees leave the organization. That is external mobility. That is likely to cause disruptions. And because we don't want to cause disruptions, we prepare ourselves in advance by identifying those with potential. Immediately a person exits, we have somebody with potential to replace them. And that is part of risk management. What are the best practices in potential assessment? One, we must use objective tools. These are systems or methods that we use to identify potential. And therefore, these tools must be standardized and unbiased. We mentioned some of the methods or tools that we can use. If we can go back, this is where we use something like the 9-box grid, or observations, or career interviews. These are the tools that we use to ensure that we are not biased and that we do not discourage people because we identify wrong people. Multiple rate input, meaning that we should not depend only on one source to identify potential. We all are aware of the 360 method, where we are using managers, peers, and self-assessment. These methods will give us an objective view of those people with potential. Another best practice is continuous monitoring, because some people have potential today. Tomorrow they lose that potential. What will make them lose potential? One, they lose interest in their work. Two, they start performing poorly. Three, they are disengaged. And that is why we need to continuously evaluate people with potential, because anything might change along the line. I have also mentioned something with alignment, linking potential with corporate strategy for business success. Businesses are said to be successful if they attain their mission, their vision, and they become a market leader in terms of their market size, market share. So we can only achieve that success if we have people with potential to work and succeed others. Communication, I said, is very important. Provide feedback, which is accurate, which is relevant, and which is timely. Otherwise, if you wait to give feedback to people, then they will have moved to other areas. For example, you have identified a person with potential to be promoted. Give them feedback on their interviews so that they know that soon they will be promoted. And lastly, on best practices is integration. You combine with performance data. That potential is not just about skills, knowledge, and abilities. It also includes performance. We want to combine potential with performance so that at the end of it, we have a holistic view of the employees that we want to grow for the future. And then what is the future of potential assessment? Which means what's the way forward from today onwards. If you have not done this, you do it. One is technology integration, where you use AI, for example, ChatGPT, Gemini, or DeepSeek. For what? For mining knowledge about potential candidates. You can get information about people using AI, not only from within or outside. Then talking of big data, where you get information from around the world. You are able to identify people with potential within the organization because you have data, or outside the organization because you can use websites, you can use dashboards or other digital tools. And lastly, automate. What do you automate? Particularly performance measurement. If you are going to use performance measurement as a tool or as a basis for potential assessment, then you can automate performance assessment. You can also automate documents. You can automate processes. You can also automate systems. Like performance management, you can automate that. Training, you can automate it by using learning management system so that you can identify people with potential, especially those who are able to learn, quickly adapt to changes. Secondly is continuous assessment, meaning that potential assessment is not a one-time thing. It should be continuous. If we adopt digital tools, we are able to assess and track performance in real time. And again, we use a number of criteria to assess performance. Apart from the traditional skills, knowledge, and abilities, we also look at other soft skills like emotional intelligence. An emotionally intelligent person is one who is aware of their emotions, who can control their emotions, and also manage the emotions of others. Communication, rather innovation, is another criterion for assessment. Don't look at people from the perspective of performance or skills and knowledge only. Look at their ability to innovate. And also digital skills. Are they able to use modern technologies such as AI, telephones, or even computers to assess others? And then we should be employee-centered, where we promote the good management practices of transparency, inclusivity, accountability, and well-being. I mentioned transparency earlier on, that we should be able to provide information as and when it's needed, and there's nothing to hide. Inclusivity, let everybody participate in this process. And the well-being, we are talking about health, mental health, physical health, so that we grow a holistic employee. People with potential not only have the skills and knowledge, but they are mentally and physically well. But again, even if they are physically challenged, we should have programs for people with disabilities. Lastly is globalization. We operate in a global environment, and therefore we should be adaptable to cultural values, not only within a country like Kenya, but also in other countries. So that when we open offices, for example, in Tanzania, excuse me, or Uganda or Rwanda, we do not experience cultural shock. By adapting to culture, we are able to work with people from different backgrounds. And lastly, because of modern technologies, we are able to work remotely. We should be able to identify people with potential using remote tools. So ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of our presentation today. If somebody has a question or a comment to make, please go ahead so that we can close the program. Anybody with a question? A comment? A compliment? Okay. From my end, I can see Lydia. Lydia, if you are there, please ask a question. Alice, if you are there. Alice is not there. Okay. Debbie, I can see you. If you can ask your question, please go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
My question is,
Yes.
how can you quantify what you have measured in performance management?
Kindly rephrase your question. How do you measure? Because I've said two things. There's what performance evaluation and two potential assessment. What do you want me to address?
Performance assessment.
Mm-hmm. How do you quantify? If I got your question correctly, how do you quantify performance assessment?
Yes, yes.
Okay. There are several ways in which you can quantify performance of an individual or a group. You can use quantitative measures or qualitative measures. In quantitative measures, you can use aspects like time, 2, money, or 3, resources. How much resources is somebody using? Specifically, you can use KPIs, which are measurable scales to establish the performance of a person. Let me take the example I used earlier on, a salesperson. How do you assess their performance or measure their performance? One, you can measure the checks they bring. How much do they bring in terms of sales? Two, how many customers have they converted? That is the number of customers. Three, how much time are they using to close a deal time? So those are examples of measuring performance quantitatively. In terms of behavior, we are looking at aspects like time management. Do they keep time when they visit their clients or customers? Two, their communication. Do they communicate regularly? And is this communication relevant or accurate? Those are behavioral aspects that you can use to measure performance. Any other question that you may have, Doreen? Okay. So if there is no more question, there is no more comment, I will want us to close the program by saying that thank you very much for participating. Thank you very much for attending. And I look forward to seeing you again next week at the same time, at the same place. May God bless you and have a good weekend.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for the session.
Thank you for the session.
Hello, Soundari. Hello. I can't hear you. My phone has a problem.
Sorry, your phone has a problem. Sorry, Betty, you are asking a question?